Hi, John. All right, everybody coming in. How you doing? Are you ready? Good. All right, so we got Bobby, we got Kai, we got Daniel, John. Okay, everybody's in. Conley's in. All right. All right.
Saying it perfectly. Thank you.
Good. What's up, John?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Doing good. We've been fired up all morning. It's been a good morning.
Excellent. I've been looking forward to this for a few days. We've been shut down from the pools for about a month now, so
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is great.
like I said, the reason it was a good morning because we just came up with. I was just like I said, right now, what does a coach do when you don't have a pool? You write workouts. So I think I've written probably close to about 100 workouts in the last week or so. So like any coach, when you write a workout, you want to share the workout. You want to do something with the workout. So I've been kind of putting my grandkids to the workout. I've been putting Tony to the workout, and I've been just like putting everybody like, Dad, you're killing us here. And I says, well, good. That's the idea. I don't want anybody getting bored.
I hear you. Same thing's happening here.
I know. It just, like I said, I agree with Tony when we say, the people that are taking advantage of this, it's going to pay off. Let me tell you, it's going to pay off.
Well, the biggest thing is the mental prep and mental stuff they're doing, because my son's watched more video of water polo in the last 2 weeks than I think he has his whole water polo playing career, and it's making a world of difference.
And I remember when we got a couple more minutes. I remember when Tony was little. I mean, that's one thing I've always believed in. And so when Tony was like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, what I used to do is I used to put a Swiss ball in front of the television, and he basically sat. And then instead of putting the cartoons and everything else, I would just put water polo video. So he kind of grew up watching video. So he kind of grew up, in a sense, and look how much has helped him. I mean, he's not the biggest guy out there, but he's been able to be the smartest guy out there. He's the quickest guy out there. He's always thinking outside the box. And a lot of that can be done at home if you just give them reasons to do things. So video is actually a great thing to watch. And the only thing I'm against video is that if video becomes hay in the barn, you turn it on and you just kind of sit there like you watch cartoons or watch sitcoms. Well, you wait until the cartoon makes something funny for you to laugh. You know what I mean? And the way I look at watch video to me is different. I think the way you should watch videos, it give you certain ideas what to watch, like watch the legs, watch the entry, watch how he starts his drive, watch when he generates, look at the time and space relation between the drivers and the defenders. So when you give these things, these kind of heads up of the kids, it makes a completely different way to watch video, And I'm back from before the sport codes and the game breakers and all that, when the coach used to say, all right, we're going to watch video. And we had to watch the whole thing on Super 8, for about an hour and a half. And after about 10 minutes, everybody's going like, oh, my God, I can't deal with this anymore. But that's the idea. You want to be more specific when you watch. But this is going to be great. I'm telling you. It really is. I mean, I'm even talking to kids now. A lot of people, after they have the Zoom, they will call me and they'll set up something. And the questions are more intelligent. The questions, actually, you can see that a person had thought about the question. It's not like anybody has a question. Yeah, what color is the sun? It's like, just like anything that comes in their head. These guys have actually looked for it. They want to know. And that's really cool. I mean, I think that is actually one of the best things about this whole idea, is that we have that situation with everybody, All right, so let's start getting ready. If you guys can just mute yourselves, and then of course, as you know, just use your chat. If you have any questions, just send it through chat. I will give everybody a chance to speak whenever you want to. There's no problem. Is that Felix over there, man? I mean, is that looking at Felix? Oh my gosh, that's one of our great coaches in this country, and I'm so glad that he's on the call. We go back 30 years, huh, Felix?
Yes, we do. Rico, thank you for doing this.
Oh, this is awesome. So glad to have you on the call. All right. So, we're going to move on, and I'm going to try to cover as much as I can. And if we don't, we always can add those. I mean, I'm here for you guys, just like you guys are here for me. It's just a great time for us to talk water polo and learn. And I think it's really important for us to be positive. All right, here we go. So, all right, here we go. Where did I go again? All right. Okay. I can never just find myself here. Okay, good. Just making sure. All right. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do today, first of all, good morning. Welcome to Rico's Corner. We're going to be having a lot of fun today. I got my trusty board over here. Back when I first started coaching, I used to always understand that not everybody learned things by talking, so we all know we have many different ways to learn. One way that I've always been able to cut my explanation short, because, I use my hands a lot. One way that I was able to cut my explanation short, yet I got the point closely to the player very quickly, was to using visual aids, So whenever I had a whiteboard, the first thing I would do, you can go in any, store, and you buy the red, the yellow, and the green. You make your set. So again, anytime, some people actually don't see it. Sometimes you can just put a whiteboard in there and you put your magnets, so you do your writing. But you got to understand, all of us have a different perception of how we see. And so you got to understand that if you give them this, a lot of people right off the bat, they go, okay, now I know where I'm going. Now, I see what you mean, 2 meters, 6 meters. You get a little better understanding. So it takes you 2 minutes, 3 minutes to do this. It costs you basically nothing. And then you have your board set. I used to always have one of those in the pool every place I work. And trust me, when I was working in China, I used the board a lot. Okay. It was one way to get things across. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, you speak perfect Chinese. I go, sure. I just point, so it's a great way to learn. All right. So here we go. We have the positions here. So it's a little bit easier for me to explain to you guys when we go on today. Well, let's talk about center types. The center position is unfortunately is a position that is a very difficult position to coach. As you know, it's kind of like a quarterback coach. Most teams have a quarterback coach. And the reason for that is because most of the offense is going to go through that quarterback. Well, most of the offense in water polo is going to go through the center. So one of the things that I'm kind of against it is, like, a lot of times people go, let's put the big guy at center. Okay. Well, there are quarterbacks like the one from Seattle that's 5'11", and then there's quarterbacks that are like 6'7". But it doesn't mean that if you're tall, you're going to be a good quarterback, and if you're short, you're going to be a bad quarterback. It has nothing to do with that. In reality, it has to do with the type of person that is going to be your center. So when you're trying to get a center, first of all, you need to see what kind of athlete do you have. There are usually 4 types of athletes. You have your block centers, and that's the ones that basically are not so creative. They don't have a lot of good hand coordination, but they are good size, and they're very hungry about their position. They are called block centers. Traditionally, you see that a lot towards the Serbian centers, the Croatian centers. They're not necessarily scorers like a Hungarian center, but they are very strong. I mean, they use a lot of egg beater kick. They usually sit at the edge of the seat, so that means that they have a little bit of a sitting position, and they usually use their hand sculling and their egg beater with a very little vertical breaststroke kick, but they hold position, because the offense of those kind of teams are more towards the outside shooting. So staying at 2 meters is a very important part of their offense. We will talk about the new rule and how that has changed a little bit, but that's what we call a block center. So again, there is no better way or worse way. It has to do with what kind of center you have. What kind of offense do you have? Let's design our offense, okay? It's not about like, well, coach, we just put the guys out there. No, it is not that way. You see what you have. You can have one offense completely different than the other by year, just by switching one player. So that's the first one, is your block center. The second one is going to be your mobile center. Usually a mobile center is not a center that can hold position with his back very much, but he usually kind of has that sideways. He puts his shoulders a little bit into the defender, and he has a tendency to always be kind of moving out. These kind of centers usually are more shooting centers. They have a tendency to step out or fake the step out and going for the turn. So these kind of mobile centers are kind of like the Hungarian centers. What's happening lately, American centers have actually gone much towards that. And the reason for that is because with the 25-meter game, particularly on the high school and the college level, they're getting a lot of balls going in there. So that means they're getting a lot of touches. So that means they become more active. So those kind of centers are very much scoring centers. They're usually a little bit taller because they have to create separation, and they're usually not so bulky. They're a little more longilineous. Some of the great ones we've had in the past, for example, is a guy like a Chris Humbert. Chris Humbert was a great mobile center. He's not going to be able to hold anybody with his back to the center, but he could step out with the best of them, okay? And the same can be done with some of the centers we've had. Look at Kemi Craig. She's actually one that could be actually a block center, but she was also a pretty good mobile center. So some centers can do both, but most of the time is one or the other. The third type of centers, your angle centers. What are your angle centers? They're usually not your primary centers, but they're usually somebody that if the main center is out or he has 2 fouls or something like that, some people will call them second centers. I don't like to call anybody second. We all important. All right. So I call them angle centers. Angle centers are the ones that are covering some kind of an angle. The guy's hurt. He picked up 3 fouls. I need somebody for about 2 minutes. So he's kind of bringing in a different angle into my offense, Angle centers usually do not come straight into the center position. So most of the centers, when they come in, if you look at the board, they're going to come in usually somewhere around this area. They run in, they come in here, and they'll try to create the center position. All right. Angle centers are usually brought in from the sides. So angle centers usually come in, somebody clears up the drive, somebody puts in just like a regular drive to clear out, and then an ankle center would come in here. Now, there is a difference. There's a big difference between an angle center and a post-up center. Okay, the angle center is kind of the one you carry. And with the new rules, actually, now that's gone back to 12 players in the Olympics, it's kind of made a lot of coaches a little more relaxed. But actually, with the 11 players, a lot of players are going to become angle centers. So if you go back until 1988, if you did not know that, until 1988, all the teams at the Olympic Games were only 11 players. It didn't become 13 players until after 88. So that means back until 1988, what you had is you had that primary center, like the main guy, and then you had a couple angle centers. And if you go back and look at some of the great American teams or some of the great Yugoslavian teams at that time was Yugoslavia, and you notice that they would have one main center, like we had, of course, like a Terry Schroeder. But then look at a guy like a Jody Campbell. Jody Campbell, by today's standards, he would have been an angle center. I mean, he could come in with the best of them, but he could set, he could post, he could guard. So that's more of an angle center, okay? So important, okay? And the last one, of course, is the post-up. Post-up is really not a center, but with the mobility of the offenses now, what you want to do is that, you're back to 30 seconds. Remember when we started working with centers, there were no time, and then it went to a minute, and then 45, and then 35, and now it's 30 seconds. So a lot of times your center could be exhausted, or for whatever reason, he's not holding position, or the other team has an outstanding 2-meter guard. Well, he can swim out, and then you come in with a post-up. Okay, the reason I say he's not necessarily a center is because I don't want people to start thinking of this mentality that I have 6 centers on the team. It doesn't work. Okay, come on. Can you imagine in basketball I have 6 centers, a 6-point guard? So it doesn't work. Okay, you need to have your specialty, but what you need to do now is have a specialty, but you have to have something second that is just as good. Okay, so again, usually post-up, they'll come in 3 different ways. The post-up can come in from positions 1 and position 5. Where they're basically just come in. Usually the center will offset the post, and then the centers will come in here as a post up. Usually what that will happen is that the play on the 3 position, and this is very important when you design your offense. When you offset the post, you need to offset the 3 position, because what you want to do is you want to create a different angle, okay? So if you offset where this person is almost like the eye, we call this the eye, goalie, defender, and the post up in the point man. So if you put this position here, now allows you to try to work the ball in here. If this player moves in, then this player can look at the angle he has. He's kind of taken away a little bit of both of them because this guy is going to try to push him out. So I have the angle here, right? So that's one of the ways we do it. The other way to post up is post up off a drive. post up off a drive usually happens. Let's just say, let's do the one that's actually been happening a lot, particularly by the mobile teams like Italy, Greece, and Spain, where they would actually take this player right here. Okay, they actually put some of their really good players here, you know, and they kind of wide out. They will move the center again to this position here, and then everybody will shift. And then this player will drive this way with the ball here in this player's hand. So see, he's driving this way. This guy immediately moves here. And then what you're looking for is this pass right there. If this person changes, again, you pass the ball and you shoot behind the goalie. So that's posting up off the cross drive. So you can either do baseline 1 and 5, or you can go ahead and drive from 2 and 4. Okay. Radko used to like this one in particular. It's more difficult. It takes a lot of coordination and training, but you can also go as a post up from position 3. Okay. But if you do that, usually you want to give and go. So you want to basically just say maybe pass the ball here, or if the player's not playing good defense, let's say if he's here. Remember, players at 1 and 5, you should always be playing defense high. You want to deny, not deter. Okay. But if he's out of position, you play here, and then what happens is this player will then try to drive into this situation, and this player has to come out. The reason I say it takes a lot of training, look at that. You got 4 people committed to the offense. And remember, one of the things about the offense is should never compromise your defense. So if I have 4 people here, all in the same situation, in the same line, that counterattack can be pretty deadly. So you have to be very careful when you devise a point center post up. Okay. I would say you're better off with 1s and 5s or 2s and 4s. Okay. Why? Why is the center so difficult when we're trying to explain to the center? Because the center, the whole offense is going to go through them. Okay. So then I have to build the center. So now I look at what I have in my team, and I look at guys that there could be some blocks, some mobile, some angles. I'm going to see what kind of kids do I have. You put them to some training. The one thing to remember is that there's many different types of leg work. You know, a lot of people just think of legs as legs. I hear this a lot from coaches. And of course, you know, what legs we do a lot of legs, coach. We do a lot of legs. And I'll say, okay, I think it's important. I think workouts should be, I would say on a minimum, 40% should be legs. I mean, if you go to Europe, might be even higher than that. I think legs are the most underworked things in this country. And in the sport itself actually hurts because we don't have enough legs, okay? Swimming, if you look back, and we actually did this study, we put GPSs. When I was in China, they have a lot of money. When I was in China, I put GPS on every athlete, and I went through every game, and we played them with the GPSs. And then the way we did it was to figure out how many yards or how many minutes or how many seconds each athlete has when they are swimming. Now, remember, driving is not swimming. Okay, driving is not swimming. Swimming is only when you are absolutely, totally on a horizontal, and you're basically swimming this way. If you're releasing, if you're driving, that's not swimming. Okay, that's not swimming. So when we actually did how much actual swimming these athletes were doing, is that we figured out there was only about 17% of the workout, or 17% of the games they were actually swimming. Okay, so that's why traditionally we look at it in most of the top European teams, they're not going to swim 10, 15,000 yards, just like you're not going to run a marathon to run the 400 yards. You're not, okay? So you need to swim, you need to create your base between 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, somewhere in there, depending on the kind of athlete you get. You get somebody that has swimming background versus the person that doesn't have swimming background. That makes a difference too, okay? So, but the idea is the focus. Look, what are we trying to do with this focus with this athlete? So I'm going to build this play. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see what kind of legs he's going to use. Am I going to use, if I'm going to be a block center, I'm going to use a lot of egg beater, okay? So how do we do the egg beater? I don't like egg beater holding the hand up. But I like my egg beater either over one shoulder, over the other shoulder, and everything you're doing is basically making the motion as you walk, either to the right, to the left, forward, back. Remember, I said on the first Zoom that I gave you, you have to know all the different legs, right? Egg beater, vertical breast, vertical scissor, spider legs, donkey kick, okay? All of them have to be incorporated on your leg when you're trying to create the center. So we want to see, does he do better when he, let's say, moves towards his right? Does he do better when he moves towards his left? Does he do better when he goes backwards? Because, you know, all these are different leg works. So when you are designing your leg workout, you have to be precise of what you're working on. If I'm working on my defender, why would I work on sustainment? So sometimes you say, well, my defender, look at him. He can hold 100 pounds. Why? Why would the defender have to hold 100 pounds? Maybe the center does because somebody's trying to climb on top of him and he had to hold 100 pounds. But if I'm the defender, I don't want him to hold 100 pounds. I want him to be able to push 100 pounds. I want to be able to trust around the player to be able to steal the ball. That's different legs. That's not the same legs as the center. The center basically just sits there and holds and holds and holds and holds. And then he basically has like a burst. And the burst can be, depending on what kind of center you have, the burst can be for a turn. The burst can be for a step out. And that's where the new rules come in. The new rules come in on your step outs. Because what's happening is with the offense, so I got my offense again, sitting back here, right? Well, what's happening is that I think is fantastic. It's really going to, you know, in my opinion, these new rules, I love them, okay? I really like them. Of course, like any new rules, there are a couple of them that people say, well, Rico, I mean, only having 3 minutes between the second and the third quarter, you know, all people are going to be too tired. Well, guys, remember, 20 years ago, you only had a minute and a half. Okay? So it's no big deal on that one. Or, you know, they're going to warm up, you know, they're going to do it on the side of the pool, or, you know, the substitution. All these things are kind of cosmetic. What really makes a huge difference on the new rules are 20 seconds after the rebound, so you have to make sure a much more precise, much more dedicated offense. You know, you cannot have, okay, let's have 3 drives before we start doing something, or pass the ball around before we do something. You got 20 seconds. You got to get to the point. You got to do it right away. That's number one. Number 2, 6 meters. It makes a huge difference. Look at the board. Before, this is 6 meters. Before would be right here. At 6 meters, look, I can put my guys at 6 meters right here. Look all this water. If the guy's here in the 2, 2.5, or 3, look at this water I have. Before, when it was 5 meters, look at the water I have. I had no water. So the center, and that's one of the reasons why so many people went into these crazy post-ups. But here's the problem that happened. Everybody went to a lot of these crazy post-ups, but yeah, we didn't want to take, you know, we didn't want to make a mistake because of the counterattack. So the game became very grabby. The game became very, in my opinion, very ugly to see it. You know, I basically didn't like it. All right. So now we go back to the way it was, you know, back at open. All right. Now look at this water that I have. Well, let me show you something, guys. And it'll be a secret just between you and us. All right. There are 4 shooting reasons. Most people think there's 5, but there isn't. There's no. There's 4. Okay. So first of all, let's look at a shooting section. If you look at a shooting section, it's like people say, this is the shooting point right here. No. A shooting is this. Everything on a shooting has to do with this thing. Means that he has to learn to shoot moving to his right. He has to shoot moving to his left. He has to have a center that he looks at. And then he has this area here that he has to learn how to play with. And if you look at it, all right, I'll make it very simple now. All right, let's clean this baby up. That means if I'm this person right here, my shooting area is not here, as people think. My shooting area is this, here, here, here. That means I have to learn to shoot this way, this way, this way. That means I spray my eyes to the right, left, and center. So that creates this shooting area, what I call 12, this shooting area, 23, this shooting area, 34, and this shooting area right here, that's 45. These are your 4 quadrants of shooting. And I can give you training for all these quadrants because each one of them uses different leg positions. They use different ways to drive, okay? Some will start with the right hand, some with the left, some double right, some double left. All these things make a difference. Make the sport interesting, okay? We are smart people, guys. Come on. Water polo has the highest graduation of any team sport in the Olympics. Come on. Seriously? We're smart. Let's do so, all right? We have a question here, like what equipment would you consider best for a center, legs, and some good drills? I tell you what I love. I used to, now I think they even make them because these bands that 6-8 Sports is putting out actually works great. The first time I saw these bands, they were done by the Hungarians. So what they used to do, they used to take 2 regular bands and they would cross them in their chest. So they would put like one that way, one that way, one that way, one that way. And then they would do a lot of bursts with the band. So the bands are really holding them back. So they would, let's say, move in, let's say about 60%, when it's just pulling you back enough, but not enough that you're just trying to survive. So you just move forward a little bit, and then you do your whole workout that way. I mean, you can pass that way. You can jump forward, left. You can do some star, up, right, left, forward, back, straight up, boom, boom, boom. And you do all your leg with that 60%. So the bands, to me, are amazing. I have always used bands in a workout. Felix, that knows me forever, knows that you will never see a Rico workout that I don't have a heavy ball and a band. Because in my opinion, I'm in the water. There's a lot of stuff being done in dry land, particularly now, I really like. But I tell you what, you give me a band and you give me a heavy ball, and I'm going to have a pretty darn good center, as I usually do. Okay, so bands are key. Make sure you have the bands. They can be on the wall. They can put forward and back. Sometimes what I like with the 2-meter man too, particularly for the block ones, I actually have them going backwards and hold and do the same workout, okay? You can actually have the bands depending. It can be high on the chest, but you can also go low. You can even go leg by leg and create on movement to step one way or the other. So if I put a band on the right leg, for example, and then basically I'm working my left leg to scooping the water, really making sure I have that wide hip that can kind of almost like step and gather the water, It's really important, guys. Use that as kind of like that gathering. And then at the same time, you put in a heavy ball, okay? It doesn't have to be this huge heavy ball that people, again, put a heavy ball here on your shoulder or put another heavy ball on your shoulder. And then, again, stepping forward, stepping back, swimming, with the ball in your chest, basically here, but swimming kind of like on a vertical position. So you kind of like stepping, donkey kicking back, donkey kicking, stepping forward. When you do this, what you're going to create is the base of that athlete. So instead of the base of the athlete being like this, it's going to be more like that. And think about it. It's going to be very difficult for you to take the guy out of position when no matter where you push him. One way we used to teach the 2-meter guards to say, well, get in an angle kind of under his armpit, jam him up high, and then push him diagonally, because most of them only work on that up and back. Well, guess what? If I have spider type legs, which way I'm going to push him? I can't. No matter where I go, I can't push him. So basically, that's the center you want to try to create. Remember that as a center, to be a whole center, you have to be able to do 4 things. That is, you got to be able to score. Okay, you got to hold position, obviously, but you got to be able to score, right? Or at least attempt to score. You have to be able to pass. You must be a passer. You have to understand, particularly with the new offense, you must be a passer. And then the last thing is you got to remember, you have to be able to recover. So I like to teach soft legs when you recover. Whenever somebody tries to push you down, and next time you get to a pool, what you can even do on deck, if you push somebody down and you try to fight that person, right? Well, the person that's pushing you down is actually going to win, because, you're trying to hold as much as you can, but once you push it hard enough, that person is actually going to have to give, but then it has to recover for all the strength and all the energy they use to go back. So I teach soft legs. So that basically is when a guy pushes the center, what you have to do is just kind of like collapse. Guess what? You can't push somebody that's collapsed. Then all of a sudden, that guy's not pushing you going the other way. You just basically collapse. He's using all this motion to push you so he can go on a counter. When he goes like this now and you just collapse, he just goes like, ugh. Then you, since you didn't use any strength, just go a huge scissor kick and you go right by that guy, and that way you're not going to be burned anymore. So these are things you have to do. Turning. Remember, the area of the center is not just in front. He has to work this whole center area here. So when he is working as a center, he has to be able to hold this position just as well as he holds this position, and just as well as he holds this position. Because it happens a lot of centers, oh, they're really good about that. And then the guard does this. Then what? Then what? What's going to do? Okay, what is the question? He says that centers. Oops, sorry. Okay. All right. So the center is here, right? So we got the center. I got the guard here. Well, most people would say, you know what? Well, I want to do this, right? That's what a lot of people will teach. Why do I do this? Well, what's the problem with that? Now instead of 2 meters, I am at 3.5, close to 4. And then the guy goes like this. Well, get in front of him. Where am I now? I'm at 5 meters. I'm basically in the perfect situation for them to do a zone. So that's not how you attack a defender. You know, defender, you're here. You got a hold position, and he does this, right? Don't do this. Once he does this, 360 himself. Also meaning that if he's here, 360 him here, and then come to this side here when he's not prepared for. Or if he is here, move and make a move with you. When he is moving, you get back to your position. The best way to beat the defender is to anticipate what the defender wants you to do and then attack the defender. So what I teach is that I do not by any means teach you just to keep getting in front, keep getting in front, keep getting in front. All of a sudden, I'm in 5 meters, I'm 6 meters. What kind of a center am I? No, you 360 turn. Again, if you do it yourself, no matter, even if it's a young kid, if I'm trying to grab him and he keeps 360 me, come on, it's martial arts. More you moving around like this, you can't be grabbed. So if I'm 360 myself, how is that guard going to be able to do that? And then if I 360 the guard and the guard comes wide, as most guards will, as they should, and you all of a sudden move a foot to the right, well, he has to find you, because otherwise, guess what? What's open? What do I need? I need my hand. A center only needs his hand. You can be all over my head, grabbing my body. I have my hand, it's a goal. So understanding that a center has to be mobile, and we have to be smart. Okay, so a center needs to be smart. Okay, it says here that would you ever say center should work for the kickoff or the goal? Good point. Actually, a great question, Felix. In the old days, depending on what kind of players we had, you know, you try to get the exclusion. But remember, for a long time, the referees weren't calling those exclusions because of crashes and zones. So that made it very difficult for you to just work with the exclusion. What I say is that what I usually tell my centers that basically sell them and say, what are you doing with your touches? Meaning that if the ball goes into the center 10 times, what did you do with it? Did you score twice but lost the ball 8 times? That's a horrible center. To me, is what you do with it. Oh, I only scored 1 goal. I earned 3 ejections. I had 2 attempts at the cage. One was a penalty shot, and 2 were contra fouls. Okay, that's a great center because it's making things happen. So I think the key is that you're always working for that aggressive move. And that means you're working for I don't work for exclusion. Exclusion is a reason, or let's say, you did all your work. So because the guy couldn't stop your work, he's going to get excluded. So because sometimes it's like when coaches said, well, earn a foul, get a foul. Why would I want to get a foul? I much prefer to get a goal. And then if the guy is trying to stop you from the goal, he's going to create the foul, and that's probably going to be an exclusion. So I think it's just a question of the semantics of the words in there. Let's just say work for the goal. The exclusion will be there, but I think you have to be aggressive. We're going to get one more question here. My coach says that every team should have a second center, angle center. Very good. Because no center should be able to play more than 3 counterattacks in a row because a center okay, oops, sorry, I meant to click send. Okay, all right. Abigail, you're right. I mean, it's very difficult if we're looking at the way the centers are in today. I don't know, any day. Okay, the games are 32 minutes long. Okay, so the games are 30 minutes long. I would tell you what, you can count in your hand the number of players that can play 28 minutes or more. Very few of them can play 28 minutes or more. I mean, they will have to be, like I said, maybe the Tony Azevedos, the Maggies, or the Andrea Prejanoviches or the guys that basically Felipe Peronis, those kind of guys, Prokoyeva from Russia, Kistelecki from Hungary. Those are to be the ones that will all be able to play 27, 28 minutes a game because they train at that level. They have a very fast recovery. But most of the time, you're going to play somewhere between 18 to 23 minutes a game. So that means you're going to play 3-4 minutes. You're going to give yourself a minute and a half rest, and you're going to go back in. Again, one way you can help yourself is not only to become faster, not only to become stronger, but be able to recover faster. Because you know what? When you sit on that bench and you take 3 or 4 breaths, coach, I'm ready. Hey, as a coach, trust me, I want to get that guy back into that water. I want to get that girl back into the water. But if I look at the bench and you're sitting over there going, hey, trust me, I'm not going to put you in. All right. So again, you have to learn to sell yourself on that too. Now, the specific positions like center and defenders, they probably play somewhere between 13 to 17, 18 minutes. That's what they'll play. So that's what your coach is saying about 3 counterattacks or 4 counterattacks. One of the reasons of the substitution in the middle was to take care of that part. And that is, you can go ahead and on the swim be able to just kind of save you that 15 meters, 15 yards, and be able to go in a half an offense or a half a defense. But Hugh coach is right. But again, I do know of some players that they train at such a high intensity that they can actually play as a center about 20 minutes. And that's a lot. Because you also take in consideration not only that they're playing offense and defense, but you also take in consideration the exclusions, the fouls, and all the things that goes with. So if you're a coach out there, create a good substitution pattern. Most of the time before the game starts, I will talk to my players and say, for the first 4 minutes, the play is script. So say, if this is my number 1 2-meter guard, he picks up a foul, I don't have to sub him. He subs himself immediately just to make sure I don't have my best guard picking up his second foul in the first 4 minutes. All right? Guys, you're the best. We'll be here again on Thursday. I didn't get to cover all the defender that I need to, but I think the centers are really special. We'll try to put something else out there. We'll come back to the defender, and then we'll move on about mental training by positions. I think mental training something is becoming really more and more popular. But I do a mental training by position, okay? I think my center needs to think differently by my drivers and my goalies. Oh, goalies are a little bit crazy anyhow. So we really need the mental training on those guys. All right? Hey, guys, it's always great. Love being with you guys. We'll see you on the next one around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.